Welcome to another tutorial, and in this one we're going to be looking at models again. I had a request for someone asking me what I cover my basic block building in. I'm working on a scale for this one, particularly 100:1 scale, and they're just wooden blocks covered in roofing, windows and textures and things. So let's look at a few of those techniques. Now for some time I've been using a material here, basically car body filler, and it's a kind that you have to put a catalyst in to make it go hard. Using molds I was able to cast these thin layers which then can go onto the roof. Now, a good level of detail can be gained this way, but it can be expensive and even hard to get for some people. So I have another material, and this material is basically paper mache. It's quite convincing really, isn't it? These windows and the roof made of paper mache. So let's make a mix. Now the first thing you're going to need is some paper, and you're going to put it into your blender with some water and blend it fairly fine until you can't see any extra blobs of paper. Nice and smooth, because of course the fibres are going to be going into very small miniature places. You take this pulp mixture with its water and strain it through a cloth. And then you're going to come out with your paper base. Then you take a container and a measuring thing, and I'm going to take the squeeze dried paper mache, the paper, and I'm going to measure out basically 2 lots of that, roughly. Doesn't have to be too precise. And then that is going to provide the fibre that we need for the mould. But we're going to need some filler, and so I'm going to take some plaster Paris or plaster, and take 2 of those also. And then with my white polyvinyl acetate PVA glue, I'm going to take 1 measure of that. So that's 1 of those. So it's 1 glue, 2 powder and 2 paper. And I'm also going to put 1 drop of dishwashing liquid or hand soap. That just helps it to it breaks the surface tension of the glue and the water and everything, and makes it spread nicely. So now we're going to mix it in, and you might want to add a little bit of water until it turns into a nice paste. Add in a bit of water and mix it around. Now this came from a recipe I found on the internet, but I've simplified it, and before it had flour in it, but it tended to go mouldy, so I've replaced that with the plaster. And the plaster basically does the gap filling and the detail taking, and the paper gives you the fibre, the strength and filling as well, so that you're basically going to mould some cardboard. So we're basically making a sort of a paper clay. Then we take our silicone mould that we've made, and you can check out some of my other videos on how to do that, and then use a spatula to push that into the mould, making sure that it gets into the detail of it, and also vibrate it a bit so it's going to get right in. And then you want to, with your spatula, smooth it off nice and thin, and then set that to dry, and it will take a day or so, depending on the thickness of it. There will be a little bit of shrinkage and warpage, but like a piece of cardboard, when you put it onto your model, it won't be too bad. So let's set that aside. We also could do some windows, and here are, for example, some windows of that size with a mold like this. Once again, the same, just force it in there. The powder from the plaster will go into the cracks and crevices, and then the paper will give it that strength that it needs so that it acts sort of like cardboard. So just spatula that off smooth and set that aside to dry. So after it's dry, maybe a day or so, depending whether you put it in the sun, you can now peel that off. It's still a little bit damp, but anyway, there we are. And it's like a piece of cardboard, has a certain amount of flex in it, and then we can now think about cutting a piece for this roof here. And you can just cut it with a knife, and I'm going to just trim off the excess, which is really basically very thin paper. Cut that off and trim it. See? The same with windows, you'll find that they will come out also with some paper around them to trim. You could make up a whole set like that or whatever, but you just trim off those little edges of paper until you get yourself your little windows and doors like that. They're okay for 100:1 scale where you're doing something a little wider. Also, we've got here a texture of some bricks. I'm just going to split that down the middle. And it's basically like textured paper or cardboard. And then I'm going to make it my brick layer. Trim it off there. And then I'm going to stick that trim onto Now I would suggest you paint that before you put it on. Now whether you paint that or not beforehand's up to you. I find that it's easier, particularly with windows and doors, to do them first. But anyway, whichever way you're going to do it, it's just treat it like a piece of paper or cardboard, and you are going to put some glue onto it and stick it on. And so there we have something that's reasonably quick, effective and fairly decent.